BGP communities. In this section, we'll talk about BGP community attribute, which is an optional and trans2 attribute. Now, BGP communities is a method of tagging or marking a set of prefixes which is going to share a common property. Now, let's take an example to understand much better. Now, BGP community is a method of tagging. I take an example. I have a network called 10 network advertised by router 1. So when I'm advertising the routes to another router, let's say router 2, it is also going to carry the network information along with AS path information, origin information, as well as next hop information. So by default, any BGP update will have some well-known attributes which are by default it is going to carry. Now I'm going to carry one more information. I'm going to tag this network with some community value of 100. Now based on that tag, now router 2 is going to forward the same to router 3 along with that tag information. Now router 3, either it can do some path manipulation, like let's say router 3 is connecting to two links. Now it can match these routes not based on the prefixes, based on this tag. Now we can apply some local preference to ensure that it's going to prefer this route, or we can do some route filtering or BGP route filtering, or I can tell that these specific routes, whichever coming with a tag of 100, should not get advertised to another autonomous system number. Maybe it can advertise to this AS but not to another autonomous system number. Now this is what we call as BGP communities. It's a method of tagging the routes, and once you apply the tag, it will be carrying along with the routing information, and based on that tag, either we can do some path manipulations like applying the local preference or weight attributes or any other attributes, or we can also deny the specific tag networks should not enter into specific autonomous system numbers. Now to do this kind of tagging, we use BGP community attributes. Now here you can see any BGP router can tag the routes. Either it can be incoming or outgoing routing updates, or you can also do at the time of redistribution. Now any BGP, either you can filter also, you can filter the routing incoming updates based on the selected preferred routes based on the community values. Let me take one more scenario or example where BGP communities is more applicable. So I got one customer, let's say customer 1, and I got one more customer, customer 2, and they both are connecting to my service provider. Let's say this is my service provider, and to exit this service provider, again I got two different exit paths. And from customer 1, I'm receiving 10 network, and also I'm receiving 20 network, and from customer 2, I'm receiving 100 network and also receiving 200 network. So I want to ensure that my requirement here is, so being a service provider, I want to ensure that whatever the traffic coming from this network should enter the service provider, and you should prefer the ISP, the exit path 1, I can say exit path 1, and also the same thing for this network. So I'm going to match some prefixes, and these two networks coming from customer 1 and customer 2 should exit via exit 1. It has to enter the service provider. Similar way, now the networks coming from customer 2, the second network from customer 1 and customer 2, these two networks should exit from second exit path, exit 2. Now to make this possible, there are multiple ways of doing the things. Like if you remember, if you don't know about communities, normally what I can do is I can simply go to my router here, that ISP router, and I can configure, I can match a specific prefixes in ACL, and I can apply the local preference value. Now this is one of the easiest way of deciding how to exit the autonomous system number. But at the same time, it's very difficult to match these specific routes. So what I can do is, instead, to make it a little bit more easier, what I can do is I can ask my customer to tag the specific routes here. The 10 network will be tagged with, let's say 1, and the 20 network will be tagged with a community value of 2. Now similar way, I'm going to tag 100 network with 1, and 200 network will be tagged with 2 value. Now on this router, what I can do is I can create a community list, just like we have an access list. I can define a community list which is going to match the tag value of 1, which means it is going to match all the networks whatever advertised with a tag value of 1, which means in our example it is going to match 10 network of customer 1 and 100 network of customer 2, and it is going to apply the local preference value of 200 on this router. that exit one router. So which means now your routes are getting advertised along with the tag information, and based on that tag we are doing path manipulation. Or we can do filtering also. I can say don't advertise to this router. So there are two ways, there are two reasons for using community tags. Now similar way, what I can do is I can tell whatever the routes coming with tag 2 on this router, any routes coming with a tag 2, it should have the local preference value of 200 on this router. So which means all the routes which are coming with a tag value of 1 will exit from this router, and all the routes coming with a tag value of 1 exit this router, and tag value of 2 will be exiting this router. Now this path manipulation is done by the upstream routers, and the downstream routers are simply they are adding some tag to the routes, either 1 or 2. Okay, so it is one kind of BGP routing policy based on the tagging. Okay, this is one of the common scenario where BGP communities can be used. Okay, now the last thing is BGP by default community values are removed when it is going out of the BGP updates, which means just now I said that router 1 is going to advertise this 10.0 network. 10.0 network will be advertised to router 2 along with community tag or community value of 1, and when router 2 is advertising to any other router, it will remove that community information by default. That is a default behavior in BGP. So to overcome this, what I need to do is I need to use a command called send community. So what we'll do is we'll go to router 1 and pointing towards router 3, I'm going to say neighbor router 3, and whatever the IP address, we need to give a command called send community. Now send community command will ensure that when this router is receiving any routes and when it is advertising to this specific neighbor router 3, it is also going to forward that community tag information also. So whenever we are thinking about BGP communities, it's important for you to add one more command called send community. Now when we get into the labs, we'll get into more in detail about this behavior of send community command.